So, according to some leftist, progressive, mainstream voices, if you are a man who lifts heavy weights, has a strong, muscular, and powerful body, believes in strong families, believes in God, has conservative values and morals, is not a beta soy boy, is a patriot, believes in personal freedom, ownership, and responsibility, will not bow down towards authoritarian mandates, will not bite his tongue and let emotional, hysterical, and overprivileged crybabies shout over and cancel and shame you, you then are an alt-right racist? I don't know if I should laugh or be worried. We live in interesting times. Journalism has become political activism. Over 90% of journalists in the US in the so-called mainstream media are registered Democrat voters, with many of them not necessarily belonging on the moderate side of the aisle. These are the journalists who are constantly pushing these themes of toxic masculinity and deeming anyone who believes in God as a nut job. Pop culture has become political activism. The majority of pop culture and the Hollywood elite are heavily on the left, even pushing radical Marxist and socialist ideas like gun control, for example, while comfortably living in their $1 million Beverly Hills mansions, surrounded by heavily armed security day and night. Thank God for the Second Amendment, right? Almost everything released today out of modern day's equivalent of Sodom and Gomorrah has a social justice stamp on it. Just look at today's Hollywood movies. When was the last time you have seen a film whose main character is a strong, masculine, moral, God-fearing, family-loving, and good traditional man as the main character? Men in today's movies and sitcoms are mostly portrayed as deadbeat and effeminate goofballs, mostly being the main dork of the movie. And when there is a strong and masculine man, maybe even a man who believes in God, he is mostly the bad guy of the movie. On the other hand, female empowerment, LGBTQ promotion, and social justice issues are being splattered on almost everything released today. Even the once great Disney empire are openly pushing this narrative and have made it their goal to have at least one gender-fluid character in their movies. The education system has become political activism. Most school teachers and college professors in the West are predominantly left-leaning, pushing the topics of race-related issues, critical race theory, victimhood mentality, atheism, socialism, feminism, and gender equality into the brains of little children. Children are taught not how to think, but what to think, with dangerous identity-based ideologies being served to them. Little boys are being empowered to come out and behave like little girls if they feel like it. Schools have become ideological battlegrounds, and luckily, you can see many brave parents becoming more and more active in school boards and pushing back against these hippie indoctrination camps. Big tech has become political activism. The majority of Silicon Valley hipsters are leaning left. This is very obvious. Just look at, for example, the endless list of people who have been cancelled and blocked by the tech algorithms and fact checkers for not playing along with their agenda. Remember Donald Trump? Big tech had the power to cancel the President of the United States for allegedly hate speech. But if you look at the transcripts of his speech on January 6th, you will hardly find any hate there whatsoever. But on the other hand, Democrat senators, governors, and lawmakers who have openly called for the murder of Donald Trump and who have openly pushed for BLM and Antifa to go and plunder, burn, loot, and riot through American cities, they are still very active on Twitter and all these other platforms. The military has become political activism. It is very sad for me to see that even in the great U.S. military, which normally should protect the U.S. Constitution and the rights of its citizens, the seeds of socialism are slowly starting to spread, implementing an agenda which actively wants to dismantle the Constitution. Check out Matthew Lohmeyer, a Space Force commander, a highly intelligent and bright man who was let go of his duties for speaking up against socialist ideas that are being pushed in the military. The U.S. military has become woke, pushing the ideas of CRT, LGBTQ, and vaccine mandates upon its service members. Whatever happened to my body, my choice? We are at war. This is an ideological war. Most people don't notice it because they are busy watching shit flicks and football and eating chips. Just like in the Roman Empire, give them bread and wine and they will not revolt. There is a dangerous ideology being pushed upon us, and everything that's going on now heavily resembles the starting stages of the Bolshevik Revolution in Russia. And this ideology is identity politics. This means certain groups, whether racial, ethnic, or sexual, are made out by the mainstream to be more valuable or even better than others. Hence, if you are a white Christian male, you can be mocked and laughed at, and you are made responsible for everything wrong about our society. And if you are a black pansexual hermaphrodite, you are made out as something special, valuable, and are praised as a hero. I am not saying we will necessarily fall into a Marxist dictatorship with millions vanishing into concentration camps, like the ones we had in the former Soviet Union. But I definitely see the signs of a technocratic globo-dictatorship building its way with all these aforementioned institutions playing along and aiding and abetting. Concentration camps will not be necessary. We have become so comfortable with the rising technology, if you don't conform, they will take away your internet, your online banking, your online shopping. If you don't get the vax, you will not be able to work. So most people will just bow their heads and comply. You think I'm going overboard? Just look at what happened to the Freedom Truckers of Canada. Their GoFundMe accounts were stripped, their bank accounts frozen, their cell phones blocked. The Canadian government officially labeled them as domestic terrorists. And everybody played along. The media, governmental institutions, education system, entertainment industry, and worst of all, the legal system. No one stood up for the brave Freedom Truckers of Canada. Canada has officially become an authoritarian dictatorship. It is hard to see the things unfolding because they happen in very little steps. We barely notice it. Righteousness and morals have become the new evil. Degeneracy and perversion has become the new good and hip way to go. This is the reason why the powers that be are heavily interested in turning men into whiny little pussy boys. They know that when men are strong, when they have a purpose in life, and when a man will take his sword, draw the line, and say stop, then they will not prevail with their demonic plans. It is the responsibility of men to stand up and fight degeneracy. It is the responsibility of men to grow a pair and say no to evil governmental and societal dictates. The big problem is, we have lived fairly good in the West for the last 70 years. When a society lives good for a period of time, they forget their history. Most people today don't know history. Most people in the West never lived under socialism or communism. That's why those ideas sound sweet to their young, overprivileged ears. Most people have never read Alexander Solzhenitsyn's Gulag Archipelago. Most people have never read Hannah Arendt's Origins of Totalitarianism. Most people have never read George Orwell's 1984. Most people have never read Aldous Huxley's Brave New World. So I understand that for the majority, I might come off as some kind of extreme radical, because my eyes are opened and I see things unfolding. I am not the one fiending over TikTok and OnlyFans hoes. I am not the one jerking off to porn. I am not the one wasting my precious time and watching every cool hip show on Shitflix. When the shit hits the fan, the majority will crumble. That's just the way it is. I am not here to awake the sheep. I am here to feed the lions. Hard times create strong men. Strong men create good times. Good times create weak men. Weak men create hard times. What up, YouTube? This is your boy Mickey, and welcome to Strong Body, Strong Mind. Thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please do me a favor, hit the like button below, subscribe to my channel, and click on notifications so you'll be the first to know when I upload new content. If you want to find out more about Strong Body, Strong Mind, then click the link below for more info. Also, if you have any questions regarding this video or anything else, or if there's anything you would like to share with me, then use the comment section and I will get back to you as quickly as possible. Stay strong.